At Lifehack Coaching, we help women over 35 to balance hormones naturally, boost metabolism, and lose weight sustainably. Hi everyone, I've got Paula with me here today, and Paula is going to share some of her experience with coaching. And when Paula came into me first, she wanted to improve her eating habits. Her weight loss wasn't as massive as some of my clients that I've had in the past. She wanted to lose about 5 to 6 kilos, and she wanted to feel amazing. And that's what we have achieved during our time coaching. So welcome, Paula.
Thank you.
So can you share a little bit about your background and what you actually lead you here?
Hi everybody, my name's Paula, as Anastasia has said, and I'm 52 years old, and one of the things that led me to Anastasia was that I went through menopause last year, and I've always lived a healthy lifestyle, always been active, tried to be deliberate about what I ate for the most part. But I found that after I hit menopause, my body just wasn't responding the way that it always had. And although I knew that exercise was important, I knew how to exercise, I knew how to eat well, I just was struggling to do it. And it felt like all the hard work I'd put in over the years was just going downhill because I was struggling to eat well, to be motivated to exercise, and I just couldn't motivate myself to do it and needed someone else to be accountable and to help me to get back on track.
Yeah. So what was your turning point? Like, why did you decide to reach out? Like, how did you find out about me?
Actually, my husband was working with you. And I remember when he started working with you at that time, I was thinking, oh, well, that's really good for you, honey, but I'm okay. I can do my own thing. I can sort myself out. And I remember just having one moment, and I think I was sitting at home and I just felt really, really down. I remember I was sitting at home and I actually started crying and I was like, I just can't do this. I know what I have to do. I was frustrated because I know how to exercise. I know how to eat well, but I just couldn't do it. My body just wasn't responding the way it always did. And so I just thought, right, my husband had spoken about you and he was doing really well on your program. He was probably about halfway through with you. And I thought, I need that.
Yeah.
I need that help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how's he doing now?
He's doing it. He knows what he needs to do. And, he got into some habits that have just helped him to make better choices, especially with the eating. His was a lot of, making sure that he ate better, and he's definitely done that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you feel about your health before starting the program, before learning about the changes that you need to implement?
Well, funnily, I thought I actually knew quite a bit, but when I spoke with you, one of the key things that you said, and this was something that you had talked with my husband about as well, is that I wasn't eating enough of the right things. I wasn't eating enough protein. And I remember, my husband saying, you're probably not eating enough. And in my head, I was eating far too much, but I was eating far too much of the wrong things. And so working with you helped me understand, that I really needed to eat more protein. And as I started to do the things that you taught me, it made such a difference. It was huge. It was great.
Yeah. When you first came into me, you wanted to feel better. And I remember we had this conversation about that you quite sensitive to taking herbs or medication or anything like that. And we were trying to improve how you feel through food. So how do you think that changed?
I probably can't tell you scientifically how that changed, but I can tell you how I feel.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah. Is that when deliberate about what I was eating, eating a lot cleaner, not eating processed food, I just felt better. I slept better. My mind was clearer. I felt happier in myself. And then every now and then, because I'm human, I would eat the processed food or I would eat the thing and I would just feel awful the next day. I'd have a headache. It would go through me. My body, it was almost like my body was saying, what are you doing to me? So, just the way I felt when I ate better in the way that you had suggested, that's how I knew it was good for me.
Isn't it amazing how when you cut processed food out and then go clean for a few weeks, not a few weeks, maybe like even a month, and then you bring it back, your body reacts to it, and then it makes you question, like, what was it doing to my body on daily basis when I was having all that crap, right?
And not realizing that when that's your normal, you don't actually know that you can
Yeah.
feel better eating different. And that makes me decide now. So, like, I still want to eat with my eyes sometimes. It's like, oh, there's that thing. I want that thing. And then I'll go, but how am I going to feel afterwards? Actually, it's not worth it.
Yes.
It's not worth having that to feel awful afterwards. So I've really learned
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always have conversations with my clients about taking ownership of your decisions. And that's one of them. So if you want to have junk food, okay, that's fine. You got to take ownership of that. Like, you can't blame bad day. You can't blame that you're emotional eater or whatever else going on in your life. Like, if you want to eat shit, then you got to take ownership and say, okay, I'm making this decision. It needs to be a conscious decision that you're going to feel terrible next day after having that, but you need to take ownership. And the sooner you start taking ownership of your decisions, the sooner you will start analyzing why you're making those decisions. But while you're blaming everything else and everyone else in those decisions, you're not going to change.
Yes, I really learned that, and I mean, I'll be honest, every now and then I will still choose to have something that is probably going to send it, but I know that's what I'm choosing, and I'm not choosing that
Yes.
all the time now. It's a one-off every now and then. I think one of the biggest things that I learned from you was the importance of being prepared, especially with food options, that if you're not prepared, then you're just going to go to what's convenient, which usually is not the best option for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We keep mentioning clean. What's clean mean to you? Clean food.
Clean food means for me that it's not processed. For me, it was a lot of like fruit and vegetables. If it was meat, it was a lot of meat that we were not so full of fat, meat that we were cooking ourselves, lots of salads. It's amazing how you can feel really full on vegetables. Of course, it's like duh, and salad. And those things actually make you feel full, but you feel energized, not full and bloated or heavy, because it's layered in so many things that just don't feel good. So that's what it is for me, things that aren't sort of processed and a lot more, they haven't had lots done to them.
Yeah, and that's what I found. One thing as well when I work with clients is there's not enough education about what actually means eating clean. Like, lots of people say, oh, just eat clean. Well, what does it mean, eat clean, right? And why processed is not clean. It's pretty much because it has additives. It has additives. It might have some inflammatory oils added to it, like canola or vegetable oil or seed oil and things like that. And yeah, while you're younger, you can get away with lots of things, but as we get older, I mean, like when I was younger, yeah, like going out, club and then eating McDonald's on the way home and block of chocolate was kind of like, okay, thing to do. And you still feel all right. I can't imagine doing it now. There's no way. And so eating clean means whole foods. The whole foods that haven't gone through processing. So haven't they had additives, added coloring, stabilizers, all the other things. So anything that pretty much when you look at it and it doesn't have a label, that's unprocessed.
Yeah.
I was actually making a post about sourdough bread the other day on social media. We went away during school holidays to Taupo. And of course, I make my own sourdough bread, but I didn't bring the starter, I didn't bring anything. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go to the supermarket and have a look. Do they have sourdough bread or not? And I did. And I found sourdough bread and they had the label. And I was like, I'm just going to read. And they had so much stuff added to it. And the bread I make at home, it literally just the flour, water, and a little bit of salt. That's it. And a starter, of course. But the bread from supermarket, it had so much stuff in it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to buy that. Like, there's no point, because the way the way we make sourdough, it goes through a process that makes glycemic index a bit lower than other bread, which, it reduces how your insulin spikes. So this kind of choices that we make. So for me, like when I make my own bread, it's unprocessed, right? I mean, the flour is processed, but it's not as processed if I was to buy it from supermarket. So if we want to eat clean foods, it's pretty much whole foods or foods that don't really have many, it might have a label, but it's not going to have like a list of ingredients that you don't even know what they mean, or they have numbers. I always say if it has number, your body probably doesn't know what to do with it. If you don't know what to do with it, your body probably doesn't know what to do with it. So stay away from those things. So when we go to supermarkets, we want to go outside the aisles. So that's your vegetables, your fruit, your meats. Some people are okay with dairy. You can have a dairy and then out. Like, you don't need to go in the middle at all. So what's the biggest lesson? Like you mentioned that you need to eat more, that you need to eat the right foods, you eat whole foods, you should be eating more protein. When we say more protein, some people think, oh, I gotta eat like whole day just meat and protein shakes and stuff like that. Because we tracked your protein, do you remember what was your lowest protein per day and what was your biggest protein amount per day?
I think like I was always aiming for at least 120 grams of protein minimum, and I'd sort of try and aim between 120, 150. And on days when I was prepared, that was easy to hit. I would make sure that what I was eating was going to get me to those targets. I will say on the days I hit my protein targets, I felt good. So on the days when I wasn't prepared, I think some of the lowest for my protein target some days might have been like 60 grams because I was just, eating the wrong things or just not prepared, really. That's one of the key things, I think, is it's about being prepared and thinking about what you're actually going to do. Because if you don't think about it, you're just going to grab whatever is convenient. So
Exactly. And we talk about 60 grams of protein. It's not the 60 grams of, for example, chicken, because roughly in 100 grams of chicken, there's 30 grams of protein. So if we're talking about 60 grams of protein per day, it's 200 grams of chicken. Of course, there will be other protein, protein from
yes.
other things like nuts and beans and some other things. But roughly, when people think, oh, if I have just 200 grams of chicken per day and nothing else, no other protein for breakfast or lunch, that's only about 60 grams of protein per day, which is not enough. I always say for adult, like the minimum is 100 grams of protein per day, but 120 is about the good, happy medium where most women will feel way better. Of course, it depends on activity level, on the age, the weight, the height. There's lots of other things to take into consideration. But I found personally that about 100, like for me personally, if I eat over 100, I feel good. If it's under 100, and it happens to everyone, and if I feel fragile, it's not that I feel different, it's like I feel fragile.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to describe it when you say that. It's almost like you don't feel like yourself a little bit. There's something missing. But that's one thing I've really appreciated is knowing that part of it, especially, eating that protein and knowing how I feel when I hit those targets. And that makes me more deliberate now. Like I will actually look at things when I'm buying them or look at a menu and look, okay, where's the nutrition information? How much protein is this in there? Oh, look, it's loaded with fat or it's loaded with this. So I'm a lot more deliberate about that as well after understanding the need for the protein.
Yeah, always read the label. There's some, protein bars, they call them protein bars, even in supermarkets, but they're full of nuts. Nuts, yes, has protein in it, but it's mainly fat. So I'll call them fat bars, not protein bars. If you need your fat top up, then that's what you go for, not necessarily to top up your protein. So it's always good to read the labels and compare everything and make a little bit more conscious decision, like especially when you go out and you're out and about and you need to make choice what to eat. I always say, okay, well, maybe grab a protein bar and fruit and some nuts, and that will give you that kind of balanced meal. Of course, you want to be prepared and eat proper food because protein bars they're processed. It's processed food. But sometimes you have to choose, pick your battles at the end of the day. If there is a fast food chain, I don't want to name calling, or protein bars and banana, I would go for protein bar and banana, and I might grab a cup of coffee with some milk. So it's all a bit better choices. But yeah, always pick your battles, have understanding what's in it, what impact it can make on your body, because it's not always about weight loss. And some people that come to me, they don't come for weight loss. They come for, they want to learn about what to eat. They want to learn how food impacts their body, and especially women, how it impacts their hormones. And they might want to lose a couple of kilos here and there, and that's fine. Not everyone needs to lose 20, 30 kilos. Everyone's got different goals. And that leads me to a question. What's your current health and fitness goal? What are you working on at the moment now that you're on your own?
Just maintaining the habits that I have started and that I've learned from you, especially, being deliberate about, the protein choices, thinking about what I'm eating. From an exercise perspective, as a family, they do a half marathon here in Taranaki in November. And so as a family, we're going to work together to train for the half marathon, the coastal half it's called. So
that's exciting.
We're going to train. Yeah, so that's an exercise goal that we're working towards. And I think just the main one now that, I don't have the weekly check-ins with you where you remind me remind me I make my own choices, no excuses or no fat bars, just to stick with what I've learned. I've really appreciated, my body. I feel good in my head. I feel good with my body. I feel better in my clothes. And just that heaviness, that bloating, the headaches that I might get or not sleeping just because I've got my body's trying so hard to process all the rubbish that you said. I just don't have that anymore. And I don't want to go back there.
That's
I
fantastic.
want to stay feeling like I feel, when I get things right, you feel like you're at the optimum, and that's where I want to stay as much as I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your thoughts and jumping on the podcast with me. So hopefully that's can be empowering and encouraging for someone who is thinking about changing their lifestyle habits.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Anastasia.
Paula.
You've made a huge difference in my life. I really appreciate everything you've done.
All right.
If you have any questions about this podcast or about hormones, weight loss, or just healthier lifestyle, please go to our website at lifehackcoaching.co.nz or feel free to email me directly, Anastasia at lifehackcoaching.co.nz.